I'd like to welcome everybody to the annual general meeting of Hilton Village Hall. And it's our first one for 18 months. We weren't able to have a formal one in 2020. So it will have a slightly different format and will cover a slightly wider period of time than would normally happen. So, apologies for absence. We've had from Heather Chambers, who's our Parish Council rep, from Helen Atwood, from Pauline, who is our secretary and who is sadly standing down, and from Julian Thomas, who's been a long-standing member of the committee and who is also standing down. So, approval of the minutes. I think the minutes have all been circulated, and these were ones of a virtual AGM we did last year by Zoom just for the committee. So if people are thinking I haven't heard about it, that's why. So are all the committee members happy with? Can you remember that far back? Because I can't. Ooh, sorry. Daddy Longlegs attacking me. I had a quick look earlier. I think we're all covered, was fine. Everybody happy? Yeah. Okay. I'll just okay. Matters arising. In fact, I've had a quick look. I think most of any elements that we would consider as matters arising are probably covered in my report and in Leslie's report, unless anybody's got anything they particularly want to raise. Have you seen the copy?
Yes, thank
you. Right. Okay, so I will now proceed to bore you, Richard, with my chairman's report, which, as I say, will sort of cover a slightly wider remit than would normally happen. And it is a bit longer than usual, so I am going to read it, I'm afraid. So this chairman's report, our financial year ends on the 31st of January 2021. So we are a bit late with that, but that's all things COVID, and I think that's affected all of us in many ways. So, firstly, I'd like to welcome everyone to the 2021 AGM of the Hilton Village Hall Management Committee. And unlike in previous years, due to COVID restrictions and our inability to hold a formal AGM in 2020, the Chairman's report will review about the last 18 months. And will most importantly look forward to the coming year and the challenges we as a committee face. And I think it might be helpful, as I usually do, to remind everyone of the purpose of the Village Hall as is set out in our conveyance document. And that is that the land and the building is held upon trust for the use of the residents of Hilton and the neighbourhood for recreation, education and leisure, with the object of improving the conditions of life for all of our villagers. And as a management committee, our main focus is to endeavour to keep the hall financially strong, structurally sound and regularly updated where possible. So if I clarify the structure of the committee, which is mandated in our charter document, the committee mainly consists of 3 officers, 3 trustees, and a number of co-opted members representing the groups that use our hall regularly. And we can have other co-opted members on, so we can have members who don't necessarily or aren't necessarily part of the group. So at the moment, or in the last sort of period of time, the officers have been myself as chairman, Pauline Reynolds as secretary, and Leslie Fordham as our treasurer and vice chair. And we do have Catherine Grant as our lettings officer. The trustees in this period of time have included Julian Thomas, Lynn Radbone and Doreen Bates, but will change going forwards due to resignations from the committee and will now consist of Doreen Bates, Leslie Fordham and myself. So the representative members on our committee, since our last AGM, the committee has consisted of Karen Baker, who represents Brownies, Doreen Bates, who represents the WI, I hope I've got all these right, Rosemary Blake, who is Flower Club, Lynn Radbone earlier on in the year, who was our Feast Week rep, Graham Baradell, who represented the Parish Council, and Helen Atwood, who was a member without portfolio, and the Village Hall's caretaker, Mark Burley, is always welcomed as an important person on our committee. However, in recent months we have had some changes to our committee, with Lynn Radbone moving out of the village and is now living in Brampton, and so our Feast Week representative for the last, probably about 18 months, 2 years, is it? 3. Is it? Oh my gosh, how time flies. Is Nicola Webster, and Graham Baradell stood down as the Parish Council rep, and Heather Chambers is now our new representative for this. At this stage, I have to thank Mark Burley, who took over the role of caretaker to the Village Hall. He took over from Robin Money in, I think it was 2019. And the role of caretaker is vital to the upkeep of this wonderful community amenity, and the building would rapidly deteriorate if we were not able to actively care and maintain it. However, unfortunately, Mark has recently notified the committee of his need to stand down with immediate effect due to work pressures, and therefore the Village Hall is without a permanent caretaker again, and the committee will be actively seeking a willing victim, paid pivotal committee member for this vital role. And as the committee have discussed earlier, we will, we're quite happy to have a couple of people sharing it, and sort of looking at how we could, make the role more attractive to people in the village. I think as well at this point it might be helpful for me to clarify how the Village Hall is managed over the challenging COVID period that has been experienced by all of us. With effect from March 2020, the Village Hall had to close its doors due to the national COVID restrictions and has only recently started to reopen to business as usual, due to the complexity of maintaining a safe environment, not just for our hirers and visitors, but also for the cleaner, the caretaker, and committee members who are so actively involved in the running of this community facility. The committee had to take the difficult decision to pause the need for both our caretaker and cleaner over this period of time. However, although the hall was closed for business, a small number of the committee, Pauline, Helen, Doreen and Leslie, checked the hall over regularly on a weekly basis to ensure everything was running as it should, that we didn't have any burst pipes, broken windows, leaks, flying insects taking up residence, and regularly flushed the taps, the toilets, and basically generally kept an eye on the building. This was a huge commitment, and I would like to take this opportunity to thank them all personally on your behalf for just maintaining that over this challenging period. And these regular checks also supported our insurance policies and ensured that the hall was covered comprehensively at all times. Obviously, with the Village Hall closed to business, we were not able to receive our usual hiring fees or run fundraising events, but still needed to pay the usual background fees of insurances, utility bills, etc., and any general maintenance which was required. And we therefore supplemented the grant monies with the amazing amount raised by our Christmas pantomime, written and directed by Helen Atwood, which we had early in 2020, and that was requested to be ring-fenced for this particular equipment. And we also had a generous donation from John Taylor, who's one of our villagers. A robust grant application, business case, and appropriate selection process was undertaken, with the local company, AB Experts, securing the business and completing the installation. At this point, I have to pause to highlight how much work this project required, with a high level of technical expertise, pivotal to ensure that the village hall got the best and most appropriate deal for the money available. As a committee, we could not have managed this without the hard work, commitment and tireless energy of Julian Thomas, Andy Bush and Ken Atwood. And I wish not only my thanks, but those of the committee to be formally noted. We owe them a huge debt of gratitude. There are a couple of fundraising community elements that require a particular note of thanks. As briefly mentioned above, Helen Atwood pulled off a major fundraising achievement in January 2020, just before all the major COVID restrictions came into force. A Christmas village pantomime, which was a huge success. And Helen, who unfortunately is not able to be here today, wrote and directed the pantomime, masterminded the costume design, makeup, set, ticket sales, and all things necessary to produce a couple of evenings and a matinee performance of glorious entertainment for the whole village. Truly amazing. And the troupe raised a significant amount for the village hall funds, which, as I said, Helen requested to be ring-fenced for the sound and audio-visual system for the hall. Also, from a community service aspect, the Village Hall Committee set up a drop-in coffee, tea, get-together once a month event, which is linked with the days when the library van calls into the village and parks up outside the Village Hall. We called it the coffee stop to start with. We've now called it Tea on the Green. May well get changed again after tonight's meeting, but we will see. And this was set up to provide an afternoon when villagers of all ages could come together and hopefully catch up with friends, old and new, have a cup of tea and some cake and have a chat. This is a completely community-supportive initiative. It is not a fundraiser, but has so far covered its cost and provided a buffer fund for new crockery and other essentials. This community event is hosted by the Village Hall Committee, but supported by members of other groups across the community, including the WI. And it is a much-needed friendship hub in this COVID world we are all now in. We have just restarted and look forward to enhancing this community event over the coming months. As with all these things, it needs a band of committed volunteers to ensure this runs smoothly, and therefore I thank all of the helpers who support this valuable community hub. From the finance perspective, I'm going to leave the financial position and more detailed information around the grants received to Leslie in her financial report later in the agenda. However, I can assure you that we remain financially viable and continue to update and improve the hall where possible, despite COVID. Improvements. We continue to review what would improve the village hall for all of our hirers and tailor fundraising goals, to try and achieve this. Personally, I think Wi-Fi needs to be one of our next major projects, and this is something that the committee will debate and decide on alongside other priorities over the coming year. With the hall being a Grade 2 listed building, its upkeep is far from straightforward, but one of our main aims is always to ensure it is structurally sound, and we continue to monitor closely any damp issues, which many of you will know we have suffered from in the past, and have already undertaken much work on the hall over the past few years to hopefully limit, if not eradicate, these issues. The committee also took the opportunity, when we were confident that we could reopen, to make sure the hall was redecorated, and most of our rooms have been painted apart from the small committee room, which I'm sure we will do at some point over the coming year. Bookings. So strong bookings are at the core of our ability to remain financially viable. Sadly, following COVID, we have lost some, a number of 4, of our regular hirers for various reasons. Either alternative venues or the groups themselves are no longer running. But I am pleased to report that we have 3 new hiring groups from September, and we will work hard to improve on this as restrictions relax, and hopefully we can all get back to some form of normal, whatever normal will look like for the rest of 2021 and 2022. However, as for all village halls in the area, it is a constant battle to remain competitive in the market and cover running and maintenance costs, and this will be an ever-increasing challenge over the coming years. Management of the bookings is a hugely time-consuming and onerous task, and one which Catherine manages incredibly well alongside the challenges of a young family. And I would like to express my thanks to Catherine for all of her support for the village hall to enable the committee to function and the village to enjoy this amenity. Cleanliness. So the cleanliness of the hall is essential to maintaining our business and happy customers, and this will always be another main focus of the management committee. As I mentioned earlier, this period of time has been somewhat challenging, but in recent months we have been able to get our wonderful cleaner, Sandra Neal, back on board. And she has risen to the challenge of heightened expectations for COVID cleanliness with complete professionalism. And I would like to thank her for her commitment to the village hall and the high standards that she maintains. So, for upcoming events, as in previous years, the committee needs to undertake fundraising events, but will need to rethink our programme as times have changed and what worked in previous years may not be so achievable or desirable now, and this again is another challenge for our committee. However, we do have a big national event on the horizon, the Queen's Platinum Jubilee in June 2022, and as always, the Village Hall Management Committee are planning to support this with a suite of events across the 4-day bank holiday weekend. This is still in the very early stages of discussion and will hopefully include many village groups to make this a truly memorable community event for all. We are hoping to secure another spectacular open-air theatre production from Illyria, Peter Pan this time round, and we should hear over the next few weeks if we have been successful in securing a date over the Jubilee weekend. So, fingers crossed. Once this is confirmed, we will be going out to village groups to pack out the weekend with fun, with a village picnic lunch on the green, perhaps a flower festival in the church, maybe a dog show, even maybe some fireworks, and something linked with the wonderful new community garden project, window displays, treasure hunts for the children, maybe some floats depicting the decades of the Queen's reign. All of these are only ideas at the moment, and we will be pulling together a subcommittee, including a wide representation from the village to share the workload, but most importantly, to have fun too. Future of the committee. So sadly, I must take this opportunity to voice my main worry for the coming years for the Village Hall Management Committee. We have been a fairly steady group for the many years I have been involved with this wonderful group of people, but none of us are getting any younger. And some of our most stalwart members feel the time has come to step aside and let others take on the mantle of supporting our community amenity. Sadly, we are losing Julian Thomas, Pauline Reynolds and Rosemary Blake. And they have all been truly amazing, and I really don't know how we will cope without their tireless support and enthusiasm for our village. And my heartfelt thanks goes out to them all. Therefore, our committee membership is small for the amount of hard work and commitment required to run this hall properly. Now the committee consists of Leslie, Doreen, Karen, Helen, Catherine, Nicola, Heather and myself. And I hope I haven't forgotten anybody. We all lead busy lives alongside supporting the village hall, and we desperately need enthusiastic and willing new members to join us to keep this amenity alive. Without new membership to support us, the hard decision to close the village hall will be a very real consideration, and I feel an incredibly detrimental one for our village. So please do think of joining us, or if you know of any new neighbours to the village who you feel may enjoy being a member of this fun committee, then please do come and have a chat with me after this evening's meeting, or give me a call, or stop me if you see me out with the dog. This is our biggest challenge for the coming years, and we desperately need the help and support if the village hall is going to remain a viable amenity to be enjoyed by all of us. I have, over the past few years, when delivering this vote of thanks element of my report, started with, in challenging times. But 2020-2021 have surpassed this in so many ways for all of us. It has been a period of time like no other, and certainly challenging for the management committee. Even though we have been closed to business as usual, the committee have continued to meet regularly via Zoom, secured funding to maintain the building, and as always given their time freely and willingly, well, usually. So this village amenity would not exist without the tireless efforts of this small band of wonderful people here this evening. And it is a real privilege to be part of this team. And we are a team, a great group of people. So Pauline, our secretary, who works so hard behind the scenes, and her biggest challenge really is to try and keep me in order. Leslie, our treasurer, Catherine, our lettings officer, Doreen, Helen, Karen, Nicola, Heather, Sandra, and those members who are leaving our merry band, but will always be honorary members due to the longevity of their commitments, so you're not getting out of it, Rosie. So that includes Julian, Rosie, Graham, Lynn, Mark and Pauline, and every single one of them has been pivotal to the smooth running of the village hall and the community amenity which is Hilton Village Hall, and I thank them all on your behalf. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, what can I say? It has been a difficult year, with the hall being closed due to COVID for 18 months, with government restrictions on public buildings. I'm going to go over quite a bit that probably Liz said, because we haven't confirmed. We have been very, very fortunate with receiving government grants of in the period 2021 we have received £11,334 and a further £10,000 from HDC for the sound system. And again, I'd like to thank Julian and Andy for all their work in securing these grants. I know it hasn't been easy, but the committee are extremely grateful to you. And for Ken and Andy, spent hours in the hall supervising the installation of the sound system. This work would not have gone ahead if it hadn't have been for Ken and Andy's and Julian's dedication to this as a project. Thank you. Our bank balance and reserves are healthy due to grants we have received. This coming year will be tougher, and the committee will need to pull together with fundraising ideas and fundraise. We are lucky in the fact, as Liz said, we haven't had to maintain the wages of a cleaner and also a caretaker. Many other village halls have had to do that. I'd also like to just to thank Liz for being our chair and steering us through these extremely trying and difficult times. She also holds up a very, very busy job, doing hours which I really don't know how she maintains, and whether she actually gets any sleep or not. I'm not convinced of. And all the committee for all the hard work that everybody's put in. It's great to see you in person and not on Zoom. You all have a copy of the accounts.
I haven't looked.
Thank you. If anybody has got any questions. No? Jolly good. But no, just to say thank you. But it is going to be tough. Any questions on the accounts? No? Good. Right.
Okay. So I sort of did a brief bit in mind for the lettings, and I don't think Catherine's really got anything more to update on that. We have had a few weddings, and we have had a few, sadly, some funerals, but we will continue to try and encourage more and different groups to attend the village hall. We have to do our election of management committee, and what we tend to do is to do it in one vote. So Leslie has kindly agreed to remain as treasurer. I haven't been able to persuade anybody, twist their arm or bribe them to be chairman, and I think we'll have to have a discussion as to who, if anybody, can take on the mantle of secretary, or if people can share it. So the secretary role, I'll have to have a discussion with people. But if we could have a proposer and a seconder for treasurer, that would be helpful.
Okay.
Thank you, Nicola. I'll just drop it through. Is anybody going to second that? Thank you, Karen.
Cool.
So, Leslie. And for chairman, is there anybody, a proposer for that?
And I can't say anything, can I?
No, you can't propose. Anybody want to second it?
Yeah, I guess.
Drat. And as I say, we'll have a discussion about secretary when we've been inundated with new members, hopefully. Appointment of auditor, Leslie.
We do need to find a new auditor because Colin Andrews has now retired. So if anybody does know someone who could audit, there's only one person I've thought of within the village.
Okay.
But you know, if we do, it is just an independent financial advisor we need because of the turnover with the Charity Commission. They do not necessarily have to be audited because our turnover is still well below.
We usually like to have them audited just to
They
be
are audited.
squeaky clean. I've probably got a couple of ideas of people who might be able to do it, so I'll have a chat with you, Leslie,
Yeah.
and get that done. When do they need to be done? No,
For next year, they've been done
for this year. So when would you need them to do them?
Probably before is our next AGM going to be there?
Yeah.
Before then, between sort of
So sort of between March and April.
Normally March and April.
Next year. Okay. Okay. I can have a look at that. Has anybody got any other business from the floor? Anybody got any questions? Anybody not sure on anything? Yes, Dora.
Thank you for your report, Liz. It was very comprehensive. May I just say a thank you to Ken and Andy for making the village hall look so pretty at Christmas.
Yes.
Yes,
That was lovely.
I think that's a really good point, and I think I don't know whose garden we can raid this year, because last year we had a very kind donation from someone in the village who had a lovely large Christmas tree, that they were wanting to take down and remove, so we took advantage of that, and Ken and Andy took it down and transported it. It was a big, huge team. There's about half a dozen people, and put it up outside. And I think that we will carry on. I think that is something that was lovely. It was a bit like the lights the parish council put on, which I hope they're going to do again this year at the pavilion. I thought it was really lovely for the village. So yes, if you've got a big fir tree in your garden, watch out. May be coming with a chainsaw near you. And if anybody has got a tree that is suitable and they're wanting to remove, do let us know, and you may consider coming to remove it. But no, I think that's well pointed out, Doreen. I think that was lovely, and it made the village, gave it a real festive feel, and I think it was a lovely addition which we will continue. Thank you. Yes, Katie.
Thank you. The phalanx of parishioners with me at the back have suggested that I could say a few words on their behalf. So it's really to thank you, Liz, and your committee for not only keeping the place going, but improving it in the last 18 months, which is quite a job. Andy and Ken have been mentioned quite often, so I shan't mention them again, but they were going to be next on my list, because not on your committee, but have done an awful lot for the village hall. I was going to have a little moan about the standard of the environ, because when we do the hanging baskets and stuff, the hedge and the grass and everything have been not too good. And I've just had a peep in the semi-dark, and it looked lovely.
Thank you.
And I understand who did it, and long may it last.
Yes. Thank you.
When I joined the Village Hall Management Committee a while ago now, Doreen was just standing down as chairman. She was, by the way, the chairman, or the lady chairman. She was not a chair, which is an inanimate object. And if anybody wants to report me to the woke police, they're very welcome. But now Rosemary is standing down. So that's a quarter of a century we've been involved with this committee. And the Vicar of Bray, sitting just in front of me, is still continuing. Well done. But thank you very much, Liz, and your team, for what you have done.
Thank you. Thank you. Anybody got anything else they want to? Have we covered everything? Have we forgotten anything? Have I forgotten anything, which is usually the thing? Covered all bases? Okay. Well, if anybody would like to, we have got wine. And we have got some nibbles if people want them. And we'll endeavour to be as COVID safe as we can. Thank you very much for coming.